Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, that one movie your dad likes to talk about. Considered one of the greatest films of all time. If you haven't seen this movie yet, you either hate fun or lack any connection to your parental figure. But that's your problem, not mine. The Indiana Jones movies hold a special place in the void I call myself. They were some of my favorite movies growing up, and with the clouded vision of a stupid child, I could easily avoid any criticism that the series may have come under, especially the last two. But before 5, there was one. Let's talk about my friend George's dog. Indiana Jones was originally conceptualized by George Lucas, and he based the name of the franchise juggernaut off his dog, Indiana Smith. That's actually pretty cool. The idea of Raiders danced around in Lucas's head for a couple years while he worked on some big projects. That is until Spielberg came in. They came up with some stunt set pieces that would tickle the fancy of any boy under the age of 70, like the classic Boulder scene, Indy being dragged by a truck, and Nazis feeling the wrath of God. With all these ideas in place, they came to a stunning realization that I'm sure no one saw coming. Neither of them were good writers. So they hired a guy named Kasdan to tie everything together so there was an actual movie to go with the side order of dopamine-driven stunts. Fun fact, in one of their little writing sessions, George wanted Mary, the key love interest of Dr. Jones, to be 11. Jones is 37. This was immediately shot down, and thankfully it was, otherwise we could have had a very different movie. After the script wrapped up and the funding was secured, lead Indy of the Jones went through some interesting cast choices. For a minute there, Tom Selleck was going to be the archaeologist with an infatuation for bullwhips, and Bill Murray for some reason. I don't quite get that one. Eventually they decided to go with the only right answer, and Harrison Ford was chosen to be the adventurous archaeologist. Here's how it went. In the rugged jungle of somewhere south of America, Jones and a crew of not-so-trustworthy guys, as made clear by their undying loyalty over the next 20 minutes, are in search of a golden statuette that may or may not prove the existence of the tiny men who built these temples. To get a hold of such an object, various death traps have been put into place that kill everyone who holds little importance to the greater plot at play. Mr. Indiana Jones is not fazed by this, nor the giant rolling stone ball that nearly ends this movie early. However, all of his death is for naught, as this German fellow with a clear link to a certain fanatical political group active in the mid-1900s takes the idol MacGuffin from Jones and pays off a bunch of natives to end his existence. Not to worry though, he's saved by this guy. I don't know his name. Thank you. Following such a wonderful vacation, Jones goes back to his typical 9 to 5, where he is not so indirectly hit on by young college girls. I kid you not. Well, that would be a completely different narrative. The writers quickly take our PhD holding adventurer out of the classroom and back into the field, with a mission coming straight from the big man in the White House. It seems that the Nazis believe in magic and are ironically Christian believers that desire to find the Ark of the Covenant. Yes, that one. They assume it will give them the ultimate power of God, cause I guess they think he's into genocidal fascist groups. We'll test that theory later. Dr. Jones takes the operation and makes the voyage to claim an item to assist in tracking down the Ark, although it does come with baggage. Marion is quite the unique character. She's a strong woman who can definitely hold her liquor. One may call her a tomboy, but really she's just a badass, not afraid to knock around a couple Nazis that her old ex leads into her bar. Yes, these two have quite a complicated past that isn't ever really shared in great detail. What is clear though is that they got a good thing going. They're just too stubborn to admit it. While originally turning down Jones on handing over her dad's freakishly huge medallion necklace, after fighting off a small squad of Nazi arsonists that burned down her place of work, her mind seems to have changed. The two head to Cairo. In Egypt, the pair meets an old friend of Indy who's being forced to dig for the Ark on behalf of the Führer of Germany. He assists Jones in finding the location of his dig site, but before we move on to that, it seems the Jar Jar Binks of this movie, aka the shithead of a monkey, rats them out to some local mercs before accidentally eating poison like the fool he is. Rest in peace, monkey. You'll be remembered. Lego friend. Mary has been kidnapped by the local Middle Eastern ninja clan, but Jones hasn't the time for these shenanigans as he's got to get back to the pooper. You see, in this scene, he is greatly suffering from dysentery. I am not kidding. Over 150 crew members had the organ trail disease from local food on the shooting site, which led to a 5-minute fight sequence to last 3 seconds. Once Jones finds Mary, the crew heads to the deserts of Cairo in search of the Well of Souls, which, unlike the Nazis, Jones has no trouble finding. Upon completion of the game-like puzzle, the Ark is found and quickly lost as the Germans have finally caught up and they are not so happy. Jones and Mary get locked in the Well of Souls with roughly 1,000 snakes. PETA beware. The two get creative and bust their way out, hop on some horses, and chase down the Nazi caravan. Now the next 30 minutes of screen time deserves to be watched several times over so that you can take in all that goes on, much like you would do for a Mr. Beast video. Jones goes from beating the shit out of the Nazis while jumping car to car to fighting a stereotypical circus strongman that I'm supposed to believe flies a plane in this tiny cockpit. Upon the defeat of an entire Nazi platoon at the hands of a 10-year archaeology professor, the big men of the German political party are not too happy. As Jones tries to transfer the Ark back to the States, the ship is intercepted by a Nazi U-boat that takes the Ark and Mary and fucks back off to Germany. But that is not without Mr. Jones, and there he goes cue the track. Arriving at an undisclosed Nazi base, Jones manages to locate Mary and the Ark, who are being held captive by a group of Nazis on their way to do a mini powwow sesh. Jones holds them up with an RPG he had stored in his back pocket, much like I do in Resident Evil all the time, but he gets talked down from blowing everyone up for the sake of archaeology by this guy who he vindictively hates. Despite the rather questionable reasons our hero gave up, this choice throws the pair into the climax where, in all seriousness, the Nazis perform a ritual that will allow them to possess the power of the man. Unsurprisingly, this does not go well. Jones and Mary close their eyes to avoid visual contact with the actual presence of God that would potentially render them blind. Or melted. Yes, the Nazis all either erupt into flames or melt like candle wax. Leave it to God to dispose of human filth. He knows best. After the magic show that Jones witnesses, he and Mary presumably box up the Ark and ship it off to the US of A, where it's stored in what I assume is the Smithsonian Institution's restricted section, home of many items that you may not want people to know about. Jones seems alright with this and signs some government documents that state he'll keep his mouth shut to avoid the angry eyes of the feds. As they both walk away with their freedom, him and Mary share a little moment. Isn't that cute? It's too bad she's replaced in the second. While it's up for debate if I did Raiders of the Lost Ark any justice in this video, I hope you walked away from this entertained. Maybe you even learned a little something. Well, until next time, lads, Temple of Doom is in our future. If you like this format, check out this video, and if you're feeling like getting adventurous like your old pal Jones, check this one here. See you next time.